Like, that's your end goal, to eventually help and serve and do 50 nonprofits. Like, that has to come from somewhere.
I just always remember telling myself, you know how as a kid, they say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I remember telling myself I want to be a princess.
Hey guys, this is Ricardo, the Superman of real estate, and today we're here with Jasmine Valdez. She is a wholesaler here in Las Vegas, and welcome back to the channel, guys. Jasmine, thank you for coming today. Thank you for coming and sharing some of your time. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, your background, and then what careers did you have before, and then how eventually did it lead to real estate wholesaling and real estate investing?
So first question, where am I from? I'm from my mom. I think everyone is. But originally I'm from California. So it's a small town in Camarillo. Not a lot of people know where it's at.
Okay.
So routinely, if you've ever been to Chanel Islands, or Chanel Beach, that's relatively where I'm at.
Okay.
Or where I was born. Then from there, my parents decided to come.
Where are your parents from?
They're from Mexico. My mom is from Guerrero. Specifically, I don't know where from Guerrero, but my dad is from Toluca.
Okay.
Y se conocieron en DF. So that's where they met. And from there, they had babies. And then they came to the U.S. And from California, they went to Vegas. So
nice. How long ago they moved to Vegas?
It's going to be 20 years in May.
Holy smokes, long time.
I know. It's been a long time, but they were here. They came here because they used to pick fruit.
Really?
They were fruit pickers out in California.
From California, okay.
Mm-hmm. And then they realized that wasn't a job that they wanted. And obviously the amount that they were getting paid didn't go with our living situation. So they were just like, hey, let's go to Nevada. Let's see what we can find. Let's see if we can, get a better living where we're not paying 80% in our income to rent. So from there, they came to Vegas, and I've been here since, de fuerza.
Wow, they brought you here, yeah. You
I was like 6 or 7, so I had no choice but to come with them.
So you grew up in Vegas?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I did.
What side of town did you grow up on? Tell us a little bit about your upbringing. What was life like? Were they always working? Did you go to school?
So when it comes to a lot of my memories, I don't remember my parents much. As crazy as it is.
Why is that?
It's not that they were always working. My mom would always tell me, she's like, yeah, we would always be home. We would always go out. Your dad was always working.
But you don't remember.
And I don't remember. And I couldn't remember, the stuff that I would do, which in California when I was young, I know I would always hang out with my friends. I would always get in a lot of trouble. And even coming here, I think I kind of blacked out a lot of my memories. Aside from, I think a year or 2 years are gone, because all I remember is coming to Vegas, going to school, learning English, and then moving into this big house. And then from there, years pass, and then we lose the big house. And I later found out that it's because 2008. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Okay.
And now that I got into the career of real estate, I realized what kind of loan it was that they got.
Okay.
But they were more affected because of that loan, but then themselves didn't know. They didn't know how to get different loans. They didn't know what it was to purchase a home. And I think at that aspect, they just didn't have much knowledge.
So it was lack of education, you think?
Mm-hmm. Because I think it was an automized loan.
Oh my goodness.
So with 2008, the value of the home, it didn't match anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up having to short sell their house, which was so crazy to me. Because I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy. That now I know this information.
Now you know the information, but...
And now I know that it's not because of whatever happened between my parents. But, growing up, it was pretty interesting. A lot of people, I don't think, understand that when it comes to having immigrant parents and you're a child here, you inherit their trauma. You essentially become their parent. And it's something that a lot of people don't understand. So, for me, I'm still fortunate. I'm still lucky to have the experiences that I have because it's taught me a lot. But it's also matured me to where I didn't have what is called, I think, a childhood. It translates to that. Niñez, como que lo perdí. So
you missed out on having a childhood because of these traumas that came through your parents.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand that. I understand the values of family, the culture. But growing up, I think that's where I blacked out a lot of my childhood because it became like, learning English, being a number one translator to your family, kind of guiding your parents through certain things.
How old were you when you were being a translator for your parents? That's crazy.
I remember I was like 8 probably when we were getting the house, and my mom was like, do you know what this means? And I was like, no, but I'll read it.
Oh my
Me being a little kid learning how to read.
Okay, so your parents come, they buy a house, right? At 8 years old, your parents expected you, because you knew the language, to know terminology, real estate terminology and real estate contracts.
I think it's more of a like, we don't understand this, but do you think you can? And, they had an agent. I don't remember the agent if they were bilingual or not. I just remember being in a room and then they're just like, hey, what does this mean? Because my other siblings weren't paying attention and they didn't care.
Were you the oldest?
No, I'm the youngest, but I was very pegadita with my mom.
So you're always close to your mom.
I was her go-to person when it came to like, ¿quieres ir a la tienda? Yeah, but because I knew that I would get something if I go. And, every little kid's like at that point, it's like, oh yeah, I want to go because I might get something. And that's how I thought of it. And then obviously with my dad, we didn't have a relationship, but because he was working so much. So it was understandable. Now I understand it as an adult, why he was working so much. And now we have a much better relationship now that I'm grown and I understand a lot more than I did as a kid. But yeah, being there, it was just like, what does this mean? And I was like, okay. But throughout growing up, it was kind of like that. The more that I aged, it was like, what does this mean? What is this? Explain this to me. And I was like, oh, it means this. Oh, it means this. But I didn't realize what I was inheriting. I didn't realize what I was doing. I was being a translator, and subconsciously I didn't know how it would affect me. Because in school, when I was a kid, I would get made fun of for just speaking Spanish.
Really?
Yeah, I would get bullied. And in middle school too. So I was a lot tanner in middle school. I had more color to my skin.
Really?
And I had a very
Some morenita, they call you morenita. Or what
Not
they call
necessarily.
You?
They called me a lot like beaner, like the comments.
Oh.
So wetback. And at that age, I didn't know what that meant because I was so in a bubble. I didn't know what a lot of the comments meant. And I was like, when they call me beaner, I was like, is it because I eat a lot of beans? And I thought that. And then when it came to wetback, I was like, what does that even mean? What is that? And they were just like, haha, you don't even know? And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, is it because I sweat and then your back sweats so that your back is wet? So I obviously didn't know. Yeah, so I was being called a lot of names. And also I had very like poofy hair. It was poofy and frizzy. So I didn't, at that age and even now, I never cared how I looked. So from there, I was going there telling, kids like, oh, I don't know what that means. It's like, why don't you speak English? You're here. I speak English. And I was like, I got one word out of that and that was English. And, being put in special classes and being held back, it's very surprising that how much I learned and how much I went through. And it's all like good experiences that I could say, but you do essentially inherit certain trauma from your parents because they tell you like, hey, this is what we went through coming over here. This is our experiences. And I was like, but that's your experience. Why do I have to share that with you? And I think that that's where, that translation comes in, that dependency, like, oh, what's this? Or, hey, come with me to go do this. And
they depend on us.
They really do. And it's so crazy how the roles switch. The older you get, the more dependent they become. And it's just, it really surprises me that we grow up and yet we're still having to be responsible for somebody, yet the responsibility kind of lacks. Because growing up, I remember just, me bien pegadita con my mom, but I didn't realize that it's like, hey, what is this? Or what is this? And me just being, oh, I want to go with my mom. I was like, oh, this is this. But I think on her, and it was kind of like, going to doctor's appointments with her, going to these certain places. And it's like, what is this? What is this? But I think she used it more of a like, oh, I can use what her knowledge is to help me understand. And I willingly, was like, oh, I get to hang out with my mom in hopes that I get something. So it was a trade. And it's very interesting though. But rolling back to it, I learned more of everything I inherited through the careers I had. So I remember asking my mom at 16, I was like, I want to work, give me what I need to go work. And she's like, no, you don't need to work. Just focus on school.
That's exactly what a lot of Hispanic parents tell us.
Yeah, a lot of Latino parents and a lot of the Latino culture is go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good job. And it's like, what is a good job? Do you guys have a good job? Because what do we know is a good job if our parent, they would tell us, well, this job is safe. This job is good for me. And we'd be like, okay, so you're in construction, so I should go in construction, okay? Because it's a good job for you, so it'll be a good job for me. Or, you're doing this, but that's a good job for you. It'll be a good job for me. So essentially, I think with them, it wasn't necessarily like get a good job. I think it's like find a better job, but they didn't know how to explain that. But throughout the careers, and I remember being 16, and I was like, oh, I want to work. And my mom's like, no, focus on school. I was a terrible student. I didn't care.
What school did you go to?
I went to Clark, and I remember my mom always saying, why can't you ever be like your sister? And I'm like, why? Because she has straight A's and she's a nerd. I was like, I don't want to be like her. She has no friends. I'd rather have friends and enjoy what I want to do. I don't want to be her. And I was like, no, I don't need to. Some miracle I passed. But when they say C's and D's get you degrees, it got me my fucking diploma.
You're in high school.
It got me my diploma, and it got me a couple more degrees too. But it really.
So you went to college?
I did, yeah.
What did you major in?
I'm currently majoring still in pediatric psychology.
Oh. What made you decide to go on that, psychology for kids? As
a young kid, Vegas Verdes, if you guys are not aware, had this program back in the day. That I think it was called like a Vegas Helper or something like that, Verdes Helper. So from what I can remember is that you get pulled out of class to go work with special needs kids, and you're their guide throughout class. And I remember saying to myself, I want to go and do that so I don't have to be in class. And I just didn't want to be in class because I didn't understand English that well. And I was like, I don't want to be here. My teacher always telling me that's not how you say it. That's not how you write it. Hearing that that's not. As a kid, no kid wants to hear no. Every kid wants to hear yes. So I would go and help whatever way I could help, I would go help. And I remember asking one time, I asked my teacher, I was like, hey, how can I be one of those kids? What do I have to do to be one of those kids? They're like, well, you have to be, I believe it's in 5th grade, but you're not in 5th grade, so you have to wait. And I was like, okay. So the years passed and I was still helping my friends. I remember always being in the middle of everyone's business without knowing. And people would just come and tell me things and they're like, well, what can I do? And I was like, well, let's think. Let's sit and think, what can we do? And I remember there's this problem this girl had, and she was like, this boy won't leave me alone. What can I do, Jasmine? Go and tell him to leave me alone. Keep in mind, I'm this short little kid, skinny, telling this taller boy, can you leave my friend alone? She doesn't want to be around you, and you're making her feel very sad. And from there, I don't remember what happened, but just growing up and more, I realized a lot of people would come and tell me.
They're drawn to you.
Yeah, they would tell me, hey, this is what's going on. What can I do? Hey, Jasmine, what's your advice? Hey, Jasmine, what's this, and this? And I realized I was like, I want to help, but how can I help? And I remember telling my parents when I was, my rebellious age in high school, it was in junior year, I was like, I don't want to go to college. What is that going to help? I could just get a job. And I didn't know at that point, no 50-year-old knows life that well. And if you do, then you're in a position of a lot of opportunities, which is amazing. But at that point, based on my environment, I wasn't thinking. I wasn't like, oh, I want to be this or I want to be this. I was like, I'll just go get a job. And I remember just talking to my best friend, just letting her know, I was like, we should get jobs. We should get jobs and like move in together. And I just was like, I don't know. I don't even know how to get a job. What do you need? So for the longest time, I would work little side jobs like under the table because people would ask me for what's your social? And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't have one. And I didn't know what it was. I did it for the longest time. I thought I was undocumented.
Oh, shoot.
Because I would tell my mom, I was like, give me my social. And they're like, she would tell me, she's like, no, you don't need it. You don't have one. So I didn't know what it was.
Oh, shoot.
At 15, I was like, I don't know what that is, but we'll just work. And, my friend, her mom was like, you don't need it right now. Just focus on school. So I'm like, she has one, but I don't. So I guess you need this for work, but I thought it was like a work permit. I didn't know what it was. So I just would like do little side jobs here and there. And later I realized I was like, I'm actually born here. I have a social and a birth certificate, but for the longest time, I was just like, I didn't have knowledge. I didn't know how to get a job. I didn't know how to do so many things, but I also didn't go and seek the answers because I would go and tell my mom, like, how do you get a job? She's like, I don't know. You don't need to know that right now. My dad, he was like, well, I don't know. Go ask your mom. So I was I don't know. I don't have any answers, but as going back to the question, they would just tell me consistently a lot of stuff like, hey, why don't you go do this? Why don't you go do this? And you should be a doctor, Jasmine. You should be a counselor. Why don't you go run for student body, or why don't you go work in the office?
Your parents will tell you? No,
my friends. They would tell me, why don't you do something to help kids out? And I was like, why? And they're like, well, because you're always helping us out. We always go to you for questions and somehow you have the answer. And I was like, you know what? I don't really care for it. So it wasn't until senior year that I was like, you know what? I want to know more about mental health, because I realized with the friends that I had, we all had our issues, but we didn't know what it was. I didn't know what anxiety was. I didn't know what stress anxiety was until the proficiencies, which is still unfair that they took them away.
They did.
I didn't know a lot of this stuff, and a lot of it plays a role in your adolescence. So the more that I paid attention and more I started reading, I was like, I want to be in psychology. But it was a tough thing to come up and talk to my parents about, because psychology is a huge taboo in the Latino community, and
you're gonna work with crazy people, right? But it's not really that. It's to heal, help people, normal people with traumas and.
Yeah, and it's there's different forms of psychology. There's business psychology, counseling psychology, school psychology, educational psychology, clinical psychology. There's, research. And when I came to tell my parents, I was like, I want to go to school. Based on the behavior I had in high school, it was like, I don't care. Who cares? My report card. They both laughed. And they're like, haha, you think you're going to make it? It's like, look at your report card. You're failing everything. You think you can graduate and get into college? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, I'll be the first one to actually go to college and get a degree. So obviously I hustled my whole senior year, and I was like, I need to get into college. I need to get into what I want to get into. So I went there. I was just studying. I remember studying, trying to do what I needed to do. And by some miracle, I don't know, I ended up graduating.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't remember my GPA, but I'm pretty sure it was low enough to still graduate. So from there, I took about a year off. I was a little bit distracted. And
so you worked and then you went to college.
And then I went to college, but I got into that habit where it was like work. The minute I got my first paycheck, and then when I realized I had a social, I was like, oh shit, I can make at that point, I was working at Levi's. I was like, I can make this much. And it was like $600. It was I guess in total it was $800 a month. And I was like, I can make $800 a month? This is crazy by working. So, and I was only working part-time. So I was like, okay, what if I can get another job? What if I can make more money working a job? So from there, I was just working and I was kind of drawn into that habit of
just work.
Make money and spend it all. Whatever you got in, spend it all. And I didn't know money management. I didn't know anything about what it was to save, what credit was, any of that. And I knew I couldn't go and ask my parents because they would always come and ask me questions. So, I was like, oh, I'll learn along the way, who cares? But the more that I worked, and the more that I became more distracted, I was like, I don't want this. This is not for me. So I was going back to school and studying, and I was just like, I can't keep working. I hate working. it's not for me. And I'm not, if anybody knows me personally, they know that I'm not a customer service person because I'm not a friendly person.
You get to the point. You tell them how it is.
Yeah, pretty much. And if when it comes to customer service, I remember majority of the time I've always been in retail. So I've always been in clothes, selling clothes. I think my last job I was in retail, but then I was also in customer service. So my voice isn't a customer service voice. And my face is not a customer service face because I'm not smiling. I'm cara seria. Or what BFV, I think that's what it is, or
I don't know what that is.
Bitch
what
face.
Oh, first time I've heard that.
Yeah, well, I guess it's BF. And I just was like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of working. I'm tired of doing commission sales. I was like, I don't know what to do. And I had a friend who he was in real estate. And we were kind of just learning, and he would tell me all this stuff that he's going through. He's like, oh my God, I just did this, or oh my God, this. He would come to me with his problems in real estate. And I realized from him, he's like, being an agent is hard. It's like cutthroat here.
Oh, yeah.
And people will like step behind you and stab you in the back. And I would tell him, I was like, well, then do it too. If they're doing it, stop being nice and do it too, which is funny because now people are telling me that. And it's like, just do it. It's like, it doesn't matter. He's like, well, this. And I was like, just do it. Like, if you're gonna get cut out of something, do it yourself. Do it. Just, move forward. So that's where my foot in real estate came in. And
it was through a connection.
And from there, we drifted apart, and I just started learning and learning and learning. And I was like, what can I learn? What can I do? Where can I put myself to learn even more? And I was still in college, still, doing what I needed to. And I was working a job, and the last job, I was like, I can't do this. I am not prepared mentally for this, to get up every day, have to drive somewhere, have to hear about people's complaints. That's like the very mundane things. And it's like, you have a scheduled time to eat. You have a scheduled time to get there. If you don't get there.
Like 15 minutes to eat? 30 minutes to eat?
I think it was like 30. And then, the unnecessary stress that we put with ourselves, and just the anxiety and having to deal with other, your coworkers. And with me, I'm very selective with who I choose to speak with, very selective. And, that environment was kind of like, you have to be friends with everyone. And I was like, I have to be in high school all over again. I was like, I can't deal with this. And, working just in an environment like that, I was like, I'm done. I can't do this. I can't be friends with everybody. I don't care for people's problems when it comes to it's like, oh, they're not getting back to you, or oh, you missed your payment. Like, that's not my problem. That really isn't. And I would just, be like, oh no, that's terrible. Okay. But obviously you can hear this over the phone, and it's like, hello, I have a real issue. Are you even listening? It's like, yeah, I am. So I'm like, yeah, I am. But then from there I realized, I was like, you know what? I can't do this
is
anymore.
Not for me.
I can't. And luckily, I was in the position where I can bring my laptop to my job and kind of just work from there. And I was like, let me see what I can learn. And that's where I learned about wholesaling. I was like,
who introduced you to wholesaling? Or did you watch a video? Did you start to go into networking events?
No, I actually Googled how can you invest in real estate aside from so and so options. And I went into wholesaling. I learned a lot about it. There was a famous YouTuber that I learned from, and
what's his name?
Jerry Norton, I believe.
Jerry Norton, okay.
Yeah, I might have that wrong. I know the last
name. We'll put the link in the below. We'll find it. We'll put the link in the below.
I think that's it. And then also Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets taught me a lot as well. Yeah, and I listened to a lot of their podcasts. And then I made a connection and JV'd with somebody about what is wholesaling. How do I wholesale? What do I need to get into this?
So what do you need to get into wholesaling?
What
did you find out?
A lot of patience.
So it's a lot of learning.
Mm-hmm. And you need a lot of, if you don't already have it, it's a lot of backbone. Because like how I said before, a kid is not used to hearing no. And if you're not used to hearing no, it gets to you.
So you got to have character and take rejection.
And you got to be comfortable with rejection.
Okay. Wow. Why is that? You always get deals, or you get a lot of no's before you get a yes?
And I think it's more of a like, oh, what are you calling about? Who's this? You sound like a kid. No, hang up. And obviously at that age, I had a very, I had the customer service voice. Hi, my name is so-and-so. And da-da-da-da. And I was like, what am I doing? Why do I sound like I'm fucking like Barbie?
Like a robot.
Yeah. And, that was kind of where the person I JV'd with was teaching me, like, do this, follow this script, do these things, get certain KPI, get certain returns. And I was like, okay, sure. And I didn't realize still I was in a employee mindset because I still had a W-2. And I was like, okay, they're my boss. But I didn't realize that I was like, it's not a boss. They're not your boss.
They're your partner.
They're your partner. You're learning from them. Seek them out as a mentor. And I would just be like, okay, what do I need to do next? What's my next task? And it got to a point where I was like, I'm still in the same position. I just hate it here and worse because it's not what I want to do. I want to do something, but I was like, I'm still in a job. I'm like, I'm barely making, I remember I was making like probably getting paid like $1,000 a month.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't think this is worth my time. But I pulled it out for a year and I learned a lot. So it takes character. It takes a lot of resilience. It takes self-discipline and it takes self-respect because you have to be comfortable with certain things. And if you're not comfortable with them, you have to speak up. And that's something I didn't do. And I think that falls in line with your parents. It falls in line with all this stuff that you learn. And like how I said, going back to the no, I was never comfortable with no because I would go and tell my parents, I want to go do this. Oh, well, go ask your mom. Okay. And I just would go and do it. Like, I never really cared to ask for permission. And I think the saying goes, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I didn't care for forgiveness. So I wasn't going to ask for permission at that age. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this on my own. I just learned how not to wholesale, what not to do, and how not to stress yourself out over it. And I made it my own system. I did it completely different where I was like, how much can I do without doing so much? Without including
so the least amount of effort and make the most money.
Least amount of stress. And make the most profit.
Nice.
From there, I think when I started doing it on my own, it was about 6-7 months. And then I started to realize I was like, I need to go and talk to more people. I need to go and do more stuff. And that's when I would go to networking events. And I never had much of a social life. So I'm an introvert. I like to be in my bubble.
In your bubble.
And
I'm very much of an introvert as well.
Yeah. So I would go and talk to these people. And I was like, oh, I have to talk to people. Great. This is gross. I don't like people. I don't want to talk to them. Pero de fuerza, And I think I became an introvert more de fuerza than decision. Because as a kid, Latinos, they tell you, oh, ve a hablar con ellos. Oh, ve a decirles ellos. Oh, go say bye to everybody. Where I was like, I don't even know who that is. Go say bye. And I'm just like, I don't even know who this is. I don't want to say bye to everybody. I don't want to talk to people. I'm like, I don't even want to be here. But as Latino parents, they llevan a cualquier fiesta, whatever party that's going on until 2 a.m. in the morning.
Jeez.
And then they come and tell you, it's 10 p.m. and you're home late. And it's like, remember when you took us out when it was 2 a.m.?
2 a.m. That's funny. I've never thought about that. That's funny.
It's like, do you take your kids out until 2 in the morning?
No, they stay at home.
But from there, I think that's where I realized I was like, I just never want to go anywhere. I never want to talk to people. And I realized that now, and even recently, I went to another event and I talked to a lot of people. I was like, I didn't realize I was having anxiety because my anxiety has calmed down a lot where it's not so present, but I was sweating.
As you were networking or talking to people.
And I was sweating on my back and my arms, but I was also cold. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm always cold. I always have cold hands. I'm always shaking. I make the joke that I'm always a shaking chihuahua because it's cold. Even in summer, me vas a ver con un suéter.
Oh, yeah?
But I was like, oh my God, I have anxiety. And I didn't realize it until after. I was like, why was I always sweating? I thought I was getting sick. And no, it was social anxiety that I was getting that I didn't realize I know I'm socially awkward. I know that there's still a lot that I have to develop, but I didn't realize that I was that socially awkward, that I would just go and talk to people. And keep in mind me, I'm a short, hey, want your information, get what it is that you're doing, we'll follow up later. And I was doing that, and I did it to about 60 people.
Wow.
But I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, yeah, I'm just getting so much anxiety. My social battery would die so quick. And I was like, I cannot do this at all. I'm not this person. And I realized that I rubbed people the wrong way, the way that I approached them. And I was like, yeah, I had to talk to you and then you, and that's not an excuse, but I'm also not a person for small talk. If you ask me, hey, how are you? Great, okay. And then I'll leave.
Yep.
Like, that's all you're gonna say, okay, great. But I'm not a small talk person. And I realized that too, that I was just like, this all stems from growing up. This all stems from all these things that I didn't resolve because I didn't know I needed to. But with that in wholesaling, I just realized I was like, I'm not a customer service person. So me giving you a call and asking to make an offer on your house, I sound like I'm mad, or I sound like I'm depressed. I just don't have that customer service voice. So I realized I was like, what can I do to make this better? And I started getting VAs.
Oh.
You know, you train them, you educate them, tell them, hey, this is what it is. But my VAs are not in the Philippines. Mine are in Mexico.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Can you, I know sometimes we don't like to share a secret. What does your system look like? Do you get leads, and then you throw them to your VAs, and then they set appointments for you, and then you go to the appointments, or just something brief? Yeah.
So a lot of it are referrals, or it's off market. So it's expired listings.
Okay, so you get expired listings.
Yeah, so if you have an off market property that you know that buyer, the seller just wants to get rid of it,
okay,
you're gonna call in. You're going to be like, hey, I am an agent. I am wanting to present this to you. My VA is going to be able to run all the data.
Oh, and say, they screen the lead first.
Yeah. Okay. And they make sure like, hey, this is going to fit a buyer's box. So traditional wholesaling is we find a house. Okay. Then we find a buyer.
Yep.
No, I have a buyer.
Do you do it? You find the buyer first.
What do you want? Okay. And I have a buy box. I know earlier I mentioned to you, I was like, people tell me, oh, what do you have? Send it to me. And it's like, no, because what I have is not going to fit your buyer criteria. I'm wasting my time. What do you want? What are you looking for? What can I get you? Because if I already have it, I can just send it to you. If you want, a unicorn, I'm going to get you a unicorn. But if you want a horse and you're telling me you want a unicorn, there's no point.
Yeah, there's no point of sending the deal to you if that's not what you're looking for.
Because I want to make sure I'm getting what I need from you and you're getting what you need from me. And that's where I do it differently. A lot of traditional wholesaling is we find a property, we negotiate numbers at 60.
And then just blast it out.
And you blast it out, see who wants it. But how long does that take?
It takes longer.
It takes longer. Versus for me to say, Ricardo, what is it that you specifically want? I'm going to email you a buy box. I want you to fill it all out. Because if you put anything, I will send you anything and I expect you to take that anything. Because if you give me 3 anythings and you don't want them, I'm never contacting you again because you're wasting my time. After I asked one simple thing of you, which is, can you fill this out so I know what you want? The same way as an agent, when a traditional buyer is going to be like, I want a house. Okay, what do you want? Oh, I don't know. Then you don't want a house. Yeah. Okay, we're going to show you any house. I'm going to show you a mobile home. I don't want a mobile home. You said any house. This is a house. Oh, any house. Well, here's land. You could go build. I don't want land. So you're wasting your time and it gets frustrating. So the same way, that's where I treat it, where I say, what do you want? Here's a buy box. Fill this out. I'm going to put it in my system. And if we have a lead that comes in that fits your criteria,
you send it their way.
I send it your way. It's everything fits. Let's say, the price point isn't where you want to be, but we can still negotiate. I'm going to get it where it needs to be at, but it still fits your criteria, which that's not traditional wholesaling.
Yeah, no.
So does that mediate less stress?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Does it make it so much easier that you can close a lead?
Oh, for sure.
Exactly. So that's where I say, when it comes to my system, I'm like, I already had high stress jobs. I already had anxiety. I did traditional wholesaling and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to close this lead? Nobody's getting back to me. It's been like 3 days and we're in our 7 days. And I'm like, I have 4 more days. What am I going to do? Consistently call out people. And I was like, this is not for me. What is a way that I can make this easier and more efficient to where I just don't have to worry so much about it? Which is, again, there's a lead. Either it's off market or we do a cold calling to expired listings. So we do the call for, let's say, the referral, and we say, hey, do you want to be on board or not? Do you just want to get a commission? Oh, we'll get a commission. We don't need to be in between. Okay, great. We're going to call the seller. We're going to let them know, hey, this is the offer that we're willing to give you. We can do it this way. So the VA is already negotiating numbers and pulling the data. So a lot
right up front before you touch it.
And the thing is that with them, a lot of people have, it's like, oh, we're going to set an appointment. It's like my time is valued that I don't want to set appointments anymore. I don't want to be the one that's, so let's negotiate numbers, because essentially you're just paying multiple VAs to be your receptionist. If you want that, just hire a receptionist, because there's a lot of receptionist companies out there. Just do that, because you're dealing with less people and you're dealing, you're dealing personally with less people. You have one company that's doing, all the receptionist work. Just have that. Why are you going to hire a VA, train those VAs when you can just hire a receptionist? It makes so much more logical sense. So you have them take their information, set an appointment there. Okay, then it's up to you. That's a
receptionist.
Yeah. So
you train your VAs to screen the lead, to ask for questions, to negotiate on your behalf. Oh, okay,
because it's less work I have to do. If I'm paying them and they have this knowledge, they have these skills, why not, capitalize on their skills and say, I'm not going to use you as a receptionist because it's a waste of time, honestly.
And money, yeah.
If I wanted to be a receptionist, I can set appointments for you guys, but you guys are not going to pay me. So there's no point. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have far more better customer service because I've have the customer service here and dealt with the people here in the States. So I let them, I'm like, here's what we're going to train you on. We're going to train you on negotiations. What are your best skills? Because there's different forms of negotiation. There's different forms of speech. So it's not like, what essentially a speech is, but it's going to be like the language that we use. How do we use our own language? The way that we speak, the way that we say certain words, the way that we pronounce certain words. How are we going to use that to convey our message and convince you that you need to sell your house to us because we're the better option than anybody else? So that's what I train them on. And all that is what? Psychology. All psychology is a reaction. So essentially the psychology is the study of behavior. How are you gonna react to what I'm telling you? If I'm saying this calmly, you're gonna be like, oh, I can understand it. Versus me saying, oh my God, Ricardo, this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna be like, she's too much. Versus me, being, Ricardo, this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna be like, is she even confident in what she's saying? Like, what is she doing? Your reaction is based off what I'm doing. So it's my action. So I train them when it comes to having, a voice saying, hey, my name is Jasmine. I wanted to reach out to you because so-and-so referred you to me that you wanted to sell your house. Yeah, okay, why? What is it that you're looking to get out of this house? What is it that you want and how can we help? Oh, you're in a lot of trouble. That's fine. That tends to happen to a lot of people. But what do you still want out of this? Do you want your credit fixed? What is it that you want? Versus saying, yeah, you want to sell your house? Okay, here's an offer for you. It's like, you don't really give a shit about what I want to say. And there was a book, I don't know if it was a book that I read or a channel or a YouTube video that this person was trying to sell this house and they couldn't. They were just not accepting the offer. And it was until they went onto the property and they were like, oh, we can't sell this house because I have rabbits in the back. And the guy was like, you have rabbits? Well, let's relocate them. Let's help. Let's do all this stuff. And he did all the manual labor. And even though his offer was low, they still took it. After months, they still took it. But why? Because it was like, how can I help you?
So we're problem solvers as a wholesaler. Mm-hmm. And it's just not money sometimes. We're getting rid of the house.
No, because it's the connection. It's the referral. If I help you get out of your situation, what are you going to go and do? Hey, so-and-so helped me out.
Jasmine bought the house for me. And
yeah, Jasmine, you know what? The thing is, I even tell them, I'm not going to buy your house. We're a third-party service, but we charge our buyers because we have qualified buyers, which my buyers are qualified to be able to go and buy your house. And a lot of...
so you tell them up front.
Yeah, I tell them up front. Like my VAs tell them we're a third-party service. What does a third-party service mean? It's like we provide a service free to you because we're not going to charge you. And we charge our buyers. Well, how do you guys profit from there? It's like, well, we charge them a fee because we're finding and communicating with you. We're doing all the grunt work to be able to, you know, get you out of your situation, but to get them into the house. And a lot of them are like, well, that's unfair because I feel like you're this, and this.
You're screwing me or...
Yeah, you're screwing me over. And it's like, okay, so what do you want to know? My VAs know what information to say. Be vaguely honest. It's like, what is it that we really do? It's like, we do provide a third-party service. The same way that a dealership provides a third-party service,
the
same way we do. And we tell them, it's like, we're not salespeople. Because in all honesty, we're not selling you anything. Am I selling you anything? No, but I'm asking if you want to partner up with us. So it's kind of like, hey, do you want to be with us so that we can help sell your house? Because it would be different versus tradition. It's like, hey, I want to buy your house, which is what selling you a pitch. Versus saying, hey, I know somebody that wants to buy your house. We have qualified buyers. We have these people that are able to come in and close in cash if you want. And if not, we can do, you know, financing, but it's gonna take a little bit longer. And do you have that amount of time? We can close in cash. We can do this for you and we'll be able to help you out. Whatever it is that you need, we can try and help. And, you know, maybe if selling isn't for you right now, then that's okay. Just give us a call back. And that's all it takes. If you have any questions, give us a call. If we don't know the answer, we're gonna find it for you, because I realized that too, being in the position and learning a bunch of little things, that my parents could have saved their house with the 2008 if they knew what was happening. They didn't know what kind of loan they had. They didn't know how to renegotiate. They didn't know about equity. They didn't know about all these things that I was
like... They just let it go.
They were just like, all we know is that if we foreclose or if we do anything, it's gonna ruin us. So what do they end up doing? Short selling. And that's where I was like, okay, I want to be able to actually provide a solution and have some form of customer care versus traditional. And I realized that with a lot of it is that it's the, hey, here's sell versus what is it that you want? What can I do? What is your problem? And how can I solve it? And I realized that too, that with me, I'm that way. Going back, it was like a lot of people would come to me and be like, Jasmine, I have a problem. How can you help me solve it? So I feel like, in all honesty, my life was to bring me here and in psychology. I don't plan to be the biggest real estate company. I actually plan for something else, but it's a gateway. Real estate is a gateway to what I want to do.
To what you want to do.
But going back to my systems, it is, we find a lead, we do the data. And if it's necessary to do a secondary call, we do. It's like, hey, we have all this information. We know this. Here's what we can do. We could do an initial first offer, which is an estimate offer. From there, we're gonna send out somebody, and then based on their report on, you know, the conditions of your house, we're gonna give you a final offer. So let's say I tell you, I'm gonna give you $250. We do all the information. We send somebody out. They tell you, hey, it's actually going to be $45K to redo this house. What are we going to come back at for your actual offer? We're going to tell you, hey, it's already a low offer. We're going to even lower it even more. So it puts the perspective of them like, oh, this is a low offer. We're going to let them know like, hey, it might come back lower depending on the repair that your house needs. So we go based on the ARV as well. We do all this information. We get all this data. We send out a contractor, and they go and review the property, and then we, you know, that would be the secondary call. And it's like, hey, I don't know if they gave you the paper or not, or if you were home, but this is how much it's gonna take. And, you know, we tell them like it's gonna take about $50,000 to be able to fix up your house, to buy it in a way that our buyers are looking for. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have that kind of money. You're just a scam, and hang up. But then they call back about 3 months later and they're like, hey, we still want to sell. Or the other option is like, we don't have that money. You know, what is it that you can do? It's like, yeah, so here, we have two options. So either if it's a referral, we say we can list it for what it might go for. We can do a cash offer right now. Or if it's free and clear or anything, we can sell or finance or sub to it. So that's the three options that we have for you. So that's something that we can do for you. What is the option that you want? Cash is majority of the people that go for it because it's fast, easy, and send in their hands, and we can close. So what I recently started implementing was post-position. So I tell my buyers, I'm like, hey, we're gonna do post-position for 30 days. So essentially it's what, 40 days that we're giving them to move out. Yep. Because you know, and this is without charging them. A lot of people tend to do, what was it? It's not rent back, but they charge for them while they're still there.
Lease back, rent back.
Lease back.
Lease back, rent back, yeah.
So with that, I tell them like, with my deals, don't do that, because it doesn't make sense that if we already have it at a rate that you want give them 30 days to move out.
To move out.
If they're not already there. I mean, if they're not living there, that doesn't make any sense to do the lease back. But give them 30 days then to move out, and we'll go that way. And that's the way that I'm starting to do now. And it's kind of clicking into people's heads like, oh shit, like I can have 30 days. I'm getting cash. It's giving me more time to move. It's giving me more time to do what I need to do. And that's where I was like, why didn't I not do this earlier? Why did I not implement this into my systems? So that's where it comes to the conversation. Secondary calls an offer, they accept it. Then from there it goes into contract. After contract, it goes into title. And then once it's in title, all my buyers have to have an escrow account ready.
Wow.
So they have to have that account ready before even starting anything with me. And that's where your earnest money comes in. The minute that we set up the account, we know that that's been set up. We're gonna go and tell you, hey, here's your assignment. Sign it, send it, and close. Because money's there. Assignment is already gonna be sent to you once we have confirmation of the escrow account. And we're closing, and all I have to do is wait.
Wow.
Because I already have it set up. And I have set prices for buyers. Depending on the price point, we're at 10 or 15,000. And I'm like, hey, this is gonna be this, this, and this. And they know, my buyers know my price. A lot of wholesalers are like, oh, I'm not gonna tell him. It's like, why? Just tell him.
Yeah.
Tell him. What is the point of you hiding it if they're gonna end up finding out? Just be honest and say, hey, it's about $10,000 added onto this. And they're gonna know with purchase price, they're gonna know with everything.
Oh yeah, they'll see the assignment of contract and all that.
So just tell them upfront, hey, for this property is gonna be 10. And with my VAs, they have the buy box, they have all this information, so they know who to send these deals to. It's not just, let's go see who wants this deal.
Blast it out. And
it's a waste of time.
Wow. Jasmine, I learned a lot. I've talked to a lot of wholesalers. I've wholesaled some deals in the past, and this is the first time I see it in this way. So I like it. That's awesome. Hopefully, guys, you guys took some notes. Oh, that was good. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me.
You mentioned real estate is just a vehicle for something in the future. What is that? What is your goal, your end goal? Like, share some of your goals. Let's say 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years, and then 10 years. And I know maybe that goal will be maybe 5 to 10 years from now.
My ultimate goal is to build up my business and sell it off.
The wholesaling business.
And sell it off. But it's my gateway to be able to make the connections, have the resources to be able to open nonprofits.
So that is your end goal.
And because I am currently in my degree of psychology, I want to be able to at least have 50 offices or even more in states. So there's 50 states. I want to be able to have nonprofits, psychological offices for anybody who needs it. So keep in mind, the work that I'm doing is not just for kids who are in trauma, it's just basic counseling. And how I said, when it comes to psychology, it's very taboo. Parents don't understand that when you migrate to a whole new country, you are inheriting trauma, which then your children inherit. Because how I mentioned, my parents would tell me this is how it was. It's like, but that's in the past. Why are you physically living in the past while you're mentally living here? So that's my goal. My goal is with real estate, what is the best option to be able to get these connections, to start your actual, my goal is to have that. Real estate, if I need offices, who do I go to? Agents, commercial agents. If I want to make a purchase on all offices, I have commercial buildings. What do you need to be able to have commercial buildings? You either raise capital or you fund it yourself. And then when it comes down to resources, it's like everyone's kind of well connected. So I tell people, I always joke, and I even say it to you. I say it to everyone, is like, look, in the future, Ricardo, I'm gonna be like, you remember the interview we did where I said about resources? Do you want to donate? And that's mainly it. My thing that I realized too is like, instead of getting my degree, getting my PhD, being in debt, then finding resources, why don't I do both at the same time?
At the same time.
Why don't I go in real estate, find these resources, get my degree? By the time I'm already, halfway or even, 75% done, I start building what I want, and then go back once I'm done graduating and say, hey, I'm done. I'm a doctor. Do you guys want to help me out on this? Because by then you guys already know all my information. You guys know all this and all this stuff that I'm doing. I've already reached out to people, said, hey, I'm going to lease this. Hey, I'm going to do this. Hey, I'm going to purchase this. You guys already know. You guys are going to be like, oh, we already know what she wants this for. Yeah, we'll help if you guys want to help. But that's where I say it too, that it's my gateway because I want to build my company up, sell it, and focus on what I really want to do, which is psychology.
Wow. Jasmine, I know you've been through a lot in life for, the traumas, but why do you want that? Why do you want to help people? I see maybe there is, I feel like you have a lot of charity. I guess you would call it like pure love to help people and love people, right? How did you get that? How did you get that desire to help people and love people and care for them? And because not too many people, like that's your end goal, to eventually help and serve and do 50 nonprofits. Like that has to come from somewhere.
I just always remember telling myself, how as a kid, they say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I remember telling myself I want to be a princess. Obviously, my name is already one. So I hit that goal by birth. But I think it's what is a quality of what would be a princess. A lot of the Disney movies, it shows them helping. It shows them being kind,
like serving,
generous,
compassion.
Doing these. My personality doesn't fit that. But my character, it does. As a kid, Vegas Verdes, like I said, I wanted to help those kids. I wanted to be there, one, to avoid class, but also to help. I want to know what makes them different from me, because why are they different? I didn't know about, all these different kinds of learning disabilities, all these different kinds of just disabilities in general, and how anxiety can be a disability, and how your environment itself, inhibits you to be able to do what you want to do. So I was just, as a kid, I can say, I just always wanted to. And I remember my mom telling me, one of the memories is saying, ¿Qué pasó, mi niña? Because you used to be this loving girl who wants to help out everyone, and you changed. And I was like, no, I didn't change, I grew. But that part of me, I kind of shoved away, because I was like, I don't want to help people. They're not helping me, And I think that resentment came from my parents growing up and saying, why can't you be like your smart sister? And she was book smart, which is great. Whoever's book smart, how can you implement that in real life?
Exactly.
Me, I was creative smart. I was very mischievous. I still am now. I'm very reckless still to this point in my life. But I was just like, what do I really want to do? When I was 22, I think it really hit me where I needed to realize a bunch of stuff for myself was when my best friend passed away. She was my sister. Not by blood, but she's my sister. And that's where it kind of hit me, where it's like, I want to really be in psychology. I want to help people. I want to be able to do the most that I can. Me personally, I can't be a doctor. Blood grosses me out. People gross me out. And just being in a hospital, I can. And I remember my parents, I tell them, I'm like, I'm gonna be a doctor. And they're like, yes, okay, great. You're gonna be a rich doctor. But they thought it's like surgical doctor or, their own firm. And I was like, no, I'm gonna be, I think I said, I would tell them, I was like, I'm gonna be a brain doctor. But at that point, I didn't know what the word was. I was like, I don't remember the word, but it's psychology. And that's when my dad, he was like, you're gonna be what? It's like, why do you want to work with crazy people? It's like, you're not crazy, but you need help. It's like, I'm not crazy. I probably need help because I'm probably crazy. But I was like, I just want to help people. And I think not a lot of kids understand, or parents understand their kids. So I remember it kind of clicked even more about how parents don't understand their own kid or understand the disabilities of their kid when I was in RBT, which is a registered behavior technician. So you work with autistic kids, or you work with kids with certain disabilities. And the amount of backlash I would get from parents, that it's like, hey, here's the work. You guys have to do it. You can't just do it when I'm here. I can't be your parent of your child. You guys are your own. And that's where it kind of clicked more, where it's like, Jasmine, if parents don't understand their kids, it's because they don't understand what's going on. And with me, when I started, I am a huge advocate for mental health. I tell everyone, go see somebody, go journal your thoughts, go just talk. You don't have to have depression. You don't have to have severe anxiety. You don't have to have anything. Just go and talk to somebody. It helps. And, just let them know what's going on, because it's a great, backboard to be like, this is what I'm struggling through. Okay, let's walk why you're struggling through it. What is stopping you from doing what it is that you want. Let's pull everything from your subconscious that you don't even know that you're consistently thinking of. And you don't have to be crazy. You don't have to have anything clinical. You can just be yourself, which is traditional counseling. And with me, I was like, I want that, but for kids. But I also want to work with kids that have the severe trauma. And I know that based on life experiences, it can weigh heavily onto a person. And it could, create certain things for them that they don't want. And it could essentially cause blocks in their memory. I think with mine, it's a lot of the bullying that I was like, I don't want to remember that. I don't want to remember being short and brown and being beat up. And now that I realize I'm an adult, I was like, I needed that because it built character and it built me loving my cultura. It built me not being ashamed of being Latina. And I correct a lot of people too when they say Hispanics, I'm like Latinos. Yep. And I would always get shamed for that. They're like, it's the same thing. I was like, no, it's not. Okay. My parents are not from Spain. My parents are from Mexico, which is in Latin America. So I even joke about that now, but it's just whatever has happened to me doesn't matter because I just don't want it to happen to anybody else. And if it has, I want to help them out of it. I want to help them know, like, it's not always black. It's not always dark. There's always light. You just have to kind of, run into the storm instead of run away from it. Because once you're on the other side, the storm has passed you. But if you're running away from the storm, it's always chasing you.
Yeah. And
you just really got to run into it. And there was something that I saw on social media that it says, I think buffaloes run into the storm.
Yep.
So that they don't have to deal with it at the end. And then I don't know if it's gazelles that run away.
Yeah, they run away from it.
And with me, I was like, no wonder I always run into problems. Because I'm like, let me run and see how much deeper I can get in and see what's going to be the solution out. And I always tell myself, I'm like, if I cannot find the solution to a problem, it's because I'm not meant to solve it that moment or I don't have the actual answer there. And even though I ran into it and I dug myself deep, I'm going to find the solution, but it's not going to be when I wanted it. And I'm a very impatient person. Which is funny because you need patience, but I'm also impatient. And that's where it comes when it comes to wholesaling too, that I was like, I'm very impatient. I can't be on the phone consistently. I have a certain amount of patience to talk to people. But from there, I was like, a lot of my patience grew from helping a lot more people. And it was even outside of being an RBT, just working, doing certain things that I was like, I just want to help. How can I help? What can I do? What can I give back? And I realized that I can give back to a lot of people that don't understand what's going on. And being fortunate enough to have immigrant parents, I want to be able to help those people and say, hey, you're not alone. I know how it is. I want my mission to be like, if you guys want to come here, there's so much you have to learn about yourself. That way you can actually give back. That way you can do more for your kids. And with my parents, like going back to the traditional, get a job, go to school. They thought that that's an American dream. It's like, I think it's a dream to them because they don't know what your American dream is. Everybody else's is different. It doesn't, matter, but it's whatever makes you comfortable, but without you consistently being miserable. And I know me being in a job make me so miserable. I don't like a manager. I don't like this. And I'm not an employee. I'm not an employee,
Mindset.
But I'm a great hard worker. I would always tell that to a couple of colleagues. I was like, look, I can't be up for promotion because I'm a terrible employee. I'm just a hard worker. I'm like, never hire me, please. Because you'd just be like, dude, she's not customer
friendly, but
she can get it done.
She gets to work.
And I tell people, I'm like, I'm a lazy worker. I'll find it in the most efficient way with less amount of stress and less amount of actual physical labor. And I made a joke that I'm like, my hands did physical labor once. They're not meant for it anymore. And I remember complaining that I did miss physical labor last year. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I work so hard not to be here. But that's something that, like, my thing is just, I think being a kid and now being an adult, I want to still have those princess qualities where it's one of them is helping out. I mean, I have the name already, so I can't change that.
Jasmine, well, thank you very much. We've learned a lot today. Your background, how did you go from working odd jobs and working a traditional job to wholesaling, and then now eventually making your dream come true and helping people through psychology and through nonprofits. We learned a lot today. There was a lot of key points that I learned about wholesaling, how you already have the buyers, you already have their box, right? What did you say? Their
buy box.
Their buy box. And you're not gonna just shoot it out and expect to get a buyer and then see, like a chicken without a head running. So you already have the end buyer, you have the buy box, and you tell the buyer, the sellers up front, that you're a third party company and you find for a fee and you charge them the fee. So you know what? That's the first time I've heard that with any wholesaler. So I think that was a good point of view, and I learned a lot today. Thank you, Jasmine. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Where can they find you, Jasmine? Do you have social media?
I do. So if you guys want, go on to my Instagram or go on to Ricardo's because he follows me. It'll be Jasmine 2_ Valdez.
Nice. Perfect. Guys, well, thank you for watching. This was another interview with the Superman of real estate, psychology in wholesaling and in real estate. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We will be having more interviews and more videos to come. And thanks for watching.